Hey, Archie, wouldn't it be great to have a pre-retirement checklist that we could use right before we retire to make sure we've got all of our ducks in a row?
Well, Rob, I've got just the thing for you. I'm Archie Hoxton.
And I'm Rob Hoxton.
And this is Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. Welcome back to the Last Paycheck podcast, brought to you by Hoxton Planning and Management. We're your hosts, CFP professionals, Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today we are continuing last week's episode about retirement readiness. And we're going to get through the rest of our checklist, which we have available to anyone who wants it. Just email lastpaycheck@hoxtonpm.com and we'll send it to you. Last week, we covered milestone ages.
Yep.
And the first half of our retirement readiness checklist. So let's do a quick review for those of you who didn't see last week's episode.
Right. So the first important age in that sort of those milestone ages is age 50. That's because that's the age at which you're eligible for catch-up contributions to your retirement plans, whether they be your retirement plans at work or your individual retirement accounts. Right. So age 50, catch-up provisions. There's also an additional catch-up provision at age 63.
Yeah, a little
some
bit more
rules
money
with that. We did an episode just recently on that topic. If you want to check that out for details, you can.
Yeah. Yep.
What's the second age?
59 and a half. And
why 59 and a half and not 60 or 59?
I'm not the right person to ask. I don't have any idea. And there's someone in the government likes half ages because there's lots of them in the tax code. So
Sicko.
It's me. Yeah.
So.
But 59 and a half is where the early withdrawal penalty goes away. So you can take money. They're no longer considered early withdrawals. So you still pay taxes. You don't pay the penalty.
Okay. Age 62 is the next. 62 is the earliest age that you can file for and collect Social Security benefits.
Mm-hmm.
We almost never recommend that people do that because there are benefit offsets. There's additional taxes. There's a much lower benefit if you take it at 62 rather than full retirement age. So 62 is an important age for that reason, though.
Yeah. The next is 65, which is where the age that you enroll in Medicare and all the complexities and challenges that come with planning around Medicare. So very important age. And if you miss it, you're permanently penalized with higher monthly outlay for premiums. So yeah.
And we actually did 3 episodes last fall on Medicare planning.
Yeah.
They were very popular. So check that out if that's something that you're interested in. And then the last sort of age milestone is depending upon when you were born, it could be age 72, age 73, or age 75.
Right.
And that's those are the ages, depending upon your date of birth, when you're subject to required minimum distributions, which is that time at which the government requires you to take some money from your retirement accounts. And the amount that you take is based on the account value and an interest assumption and a mortality tables assumption as well. So what they'd really like to do is have you completely drain your IRA or your retirement accounts before you reach your life expectancy.
Yeah, so it gets larger every year.
Yeah. So those are the important milestone ages. We also touched on sort of some of the things that you ought to be doing maybe 5 years out from your target retirement date.
Right. And the big one is, we've talked about levers before. Spending is probably the most important lever in retirement. Having good control of that lever, because you spend too much, you run out of money, you spend not enough, you don't have enough fun. So, having good control of that lever and doing things like taking stock of your current spending, looking at your lifestyle, envisioning your future retirement lifestyle, kind of doing a rough budget and then taking that through a dry run and testing that budget out to see if you can actually do it.
Yeah. And it requires a little bit of elbow grease. And what we've found over the years is that people almost always underestimate how much they're going to actually spend in retirement. They may think about what a typical month looks like, but they forget that, say, in August of every year, you have property taxes due.
Yeah.
Or, come November or December, you got to buy presents for family members, right, for Christmas or, whatever. So you have all of these things. And then you've got quarterly estimated taxes that you forgot to factor in. So,
Right.
and oftentimes in retirement, you have to make quarterly estimated tax payments because you don't have the same sort of withholding method that you have from paychecks. So you really have to take those things into consideration. Having a vision for your retirement, we talked about in the last episode, closing your eyes and kind of picturing yourself sitting in a dark movie theater and picturing what retirement might look like for you. Is it going to be one where it's kind of an extended vacation and your days are filled with fun things and doctor's appointments? Right?
Yeah.
Always lots of doctor's appointments. Or is it going to be a period of time where you're still actively engaged and making a difference, whether it be in a business pursuit, consulting to your profession, or is it, doing volunteer work, those sorts of things. What we do know is that if you don't have a sense of purpose in retirement, particularly true for men, we found, it will shorten your life.
Yeah.
It will. And those years that you have will be less happy.
Yeah.
The research would show. So
It's important.
But so let's dig into some new ground, and let's talk about some of the important things. So one of the things that you need to do is, and you mentioned, is to keep track of your spending. Do it well before you plan to retire, so that you don't have this abrupt transition into a lower sort of lifestyle spending situation.
Yeah.
Right. And
Test it out.
And assume, frankly, that you're going to live longer than you might think.
Yeah.
When we do planning, we plan for age 95.
Right.
There's a great chance that your life will last longer than your parents did.
Right.
So you got to plan for that. And think of ways to cut unnecessary expenses. These subscriptions that you have that you may have forgotten that you have, that things you don't even use. Or maybe your mobile phone package, maybe there's some hidden costs in there you can save on, or cable and streaming services. There are all these different ways that you're spending money that you need to really dig in and find.
Right.
Because if you can control your spending, that's about 75% of the game, I think.
It's the hardest part, because it's the part that, in this day and age, so much spending is automated and money just goes out the door, and like with subscriptions and things like that, it's easy to lose track. You get to the end of the month and the credit card is higher than expected. We thought we were in control, but
it's the frictionless spending. We talked about that in an episode as well, the frictionless spending that really kills you. Archie, you mentioned a minute ago this idea of a dry run. Would you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, basically what you would do is after creating this budget for yourself that you would stick to in retirement, try to stick to it now, right? And see if it's actually realistic. If you go through and you're never hitting it, you're probably not going to be able to keep that in retirement. So you want to make sure that it's realistic and it doesn't require just an incredible amount of discipline every month, because that's just gonna run out of juice with that.
Yeah, there's some really cool tools that you can use to help you track your spending over a period of time. And if you're doing this 4 or 5 years in advance of retirement, you've got plenty of time to figure it out. But our clients actually have an online service that we provide to them at no charge that helps them track their spending, categorize their spending, and figure it out.
Right.
And of course, a good financial planner is there to help as well if you're working with one. But there are other tools, like there's a great application that you can put on your iPhone or called Monarch, which I've tried. It's pretty cool, and it just helps you track and categorize those expenses. But doing a dry run, making sure you can live on that that level of spending
Yeah.
is smart, because it may mean that you delay your retirement a little bit in order to have enough money so that you can spend what you actually think you need.
Right. Right.
Another thing that we see really frequently is when you do get to retirement is to make sure that you're not being too conservative
Yeah.
with your investments. Be conservative with your spending and assumptions, but don't be too conservative with the way you invest your money, because at the end of the day, you need your assets to grow at a rate that's greater than the cost of living. So inflation is, and we all know this now, inflation, eggs, that's all we hear about in the news is the price of eggs. But, we might give up eating eggs in retirement, but we can't give up eating everything else.
Yeah.
So if you invest too conservatively, you will lose purchasing power.
Right.
And you will see a decline in your lifestyle.
You also don't want to invest too aggressively, right? Because you're going to be subject to greater swings and more volatility in your portfolio, and you'll have periods of time where you're drawing on your assets. If you're too aggressive and we have a bear market, you're selling at a much greater loss than if you were being more conservative.
And the worst time to have a bear market is the first year or two of your retirement.
Right.
I mean, it really is a terrible time for that to happen. So you got to make sure that you have your risk, your portfolio risk adjusted correctly. That asset allocation is critical, and you need to do that as you're approaching retirement age.
Yeah.
Don't be 100% stocks, get to age 65 and say, I'm going to retire.
Yeah. Not even to mention the potential taxes with that, depending on how what types of accounts your investments are in. But just the timing. I mean, if you end up being one of those people who enters retirement in a bear market, you're going to be much better suited if you had planned a little further ahead and used that, 5, 6, 7 years to slowly glide down to a more conservative allocation.
Having an adequate amount of liquid guaranteed cash funds can be the saving grace if you retire into a bear market.
Yeah.
Other things to consider is unexpected healthcare costs. So, you have Medicare and maybe you have a Medicare supplement of some sort, but what if you need long-term care assistance?
Yeah.
If you can't perform your activities of daily living and you need some at-home care, or if you have to be, institutionalized in a retirement community, the expenses associated with that are great. So you need to be thinking about how you might pay for that if that should arise,
or how you protect your assets, and if you're married and maybe you're older and your spouse is younger, you want to consider start thinking about that. And
right, that kind of planning.
Yeah. Another big one would be debt.
Yeah. 4 or 5 years out,
you should start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
try to pay it down.
Yeah, it will do so much more for your peace of mind to enter retirement without any debt. But if you have to enter retirement with some debt, then have a good plan for managing it, paying it down. Maybe you've got some guaranteed income sources, a pension and that sort of thing, then it's a little bit more manageable in that case. But if you can get out of debt before you retire, it'll do wonders for your sense of freedom and peace about being retired.
Archie, one of the most important things to do as you start to approach retirement is to develop a Social Security claiming strategy.
Yeah.
And there's no right, it's different for every person. It's different for every couple. There's no rule of thumb that's going to be right every time. If you have one spouse that is older and the other is substantially younger, then you might have one claiming strategy. If you have one that's a major breadwinner and one that's not, maybe a different strategy.
Yeah.
If you aren't healthy and you don't expect to live for long in retirement, completely different strategy.
Yeah.
These are all things that you need to consider. You're not going to get good advice by talking to the Social Security Administration.
Yeah.
You need to go through an optimization process to figure out what the best fit for you is.
Right.
Your financial planner should be able to do that. I'm sure there are some tools if you want to try to do it on your own on the internet, you might be able to do that. But make sure that you start to do that planning. As you approach age 62, which is the earliest time that you can claim, that'd be a great time to do it.
Yeah. And it's not, like you said, it's not always when you retire. The time to claim isn't always when you retire. The time to claim may be before or after. It just depends. You know, the thing about Social Security claiming is once you make that decision, it's final. And the increases that you get, which are about 8% per year for delaying all the way up to 70 or any time in between, those increases are pretty attractive. And so that's a consideration. But remember, it's a permanent decision. And so you need to really put some serious thought into it.
Yeah, it can mean the difference in hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
So
you can.
get some advice on that. So what I do want to say this is that we have a terrific checklist that you can use if you're starting to get close to retirement. If you'd like to have a copy of that, no charge, no obligation, just send us an email at lastpaycheck@hoxtonpm.com. That email address is on the screen, so don't hesitate to do that if that would be helpful to you.
Yeah. And if you like the video, remember to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell for notifications. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave comments. And then share it with your family and friends, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.